If you guys have parents who are anything like mine, I'd venture to guess that most of you have probably been told to make your bed at some point. I know I was as a kid, and even though I did it, it never really made a whole lot of sense to me. I mean, when I was young, my way of thinking about it was, well, if I'm just going to get back in it later, then what's the point of me making it now? But despite me arguing my case to them, they still made me do it. And they claimed that one day I'd understand why, and I kind of just blew them off as if they were talking nonsense. But apparently they were right, and it wasn't until I got out on my own and into university that I really realized the importance of it. And that's what I'm going to be talking about. I'm going to be talking about how starting to make my bed routinely changed my life forever. And hopefully you guys can learn something from this too. So about 5 years ago now, when COVID first hit, is when I started to really struggle with my mental health a lot. I remember before it even started, and there were still talks here on the island about whether or not COVID would actually affect us. I was in a separate relationship at the time, and I remember thinking to myself that I was only worried about her mental well-being. I wasn't worried about mine. And that's because I was so confident in myself. I was so confident that I would be fine mentally, even though all of the adults in my life were kind of nervous that staying inside, cooped up for God knows how long at that point. I remember them being scared that the mental effects of all of this would far outweigh the sort of physical health effects. But I just remember being so confident in myself and so confident in my own mental health. And once I finally got hit with it, it hit me like a freight train. It was bad. I struggled really badly. I had never dealt with anxiety or depression up until that point in my life. The only anxiety I ever suffered was going to hockey games, getting ready for a big sporting event. That was my only source of stress, really, in my life up until that point. And so because of that, when COVID hit me like a freight train, I didn't know what to do. I didn't know how to fix my own mental woes, I was lost. I remember that was the first real moment in my life where I started to let go of things around me, you know what I mean? My room was always a mess. I completely disregarded school for the most part. And for the first time in my life, up until that point, I started to let myself go physically. I started to gain a lot of weight because I was just eating, partly to cope, I suppose, and I guess there wasn't really that much exercise available for me. I didn't know how to get out of the rut that I was in, and for some stupid reason, as a dumb 16-year-old, I completely ignored my parents' advice on everything. I remember one specific moment where my mother came down in the basement while I was down there playing PlayStation. And she could tell that I wasn't really having a great time. I was kind of just sitting back all day playing video games, kind of quiet. And she told me, she was like, "Steven, you gotta get off your ass. You gotta do something." And for some reason, I guess I decided to completely disregard her advice. I suppose probably because I thought I knew it all, but she was clearly doing better than I was, and I decided to ignore her. And that was the story of my life for the next few years. I mean, my school reopened for my last year of high school, my grade 12 year. And obviously with that, I got a little bit busier because I started, being forced to do more school again. But I still struggled pretty bad mentally for, the next few years. So fast forward to my first semester at university, and I remember within the first month of me getting there, I had broken up with my girlfriend. And so I was doing pretty badly. I remember after I did that, I was basically depressed for a month. I just did not go to school for a whole month, and somehow by the grace of God still managed to pass everything pretty adequately. But I remember I didn't go to school for about 3 weeks and just laid in my bed and did nothing, which didn't help. But once I got out on my own and started having to look after my own things and not having, my mother come behind me and pick stuff up after me, that's when my behaviors and my own struggles started to become more noticeable, to me at least. I mean, I just said how I laid in my bed for basically 3 weeks, and as I was doing that, I obviously left the bed unmade the entire time. Bathroom was in a state, there was stuff everywhere. I remember I left dishes in the sink for the longest time. I didn't clean, didn't do anything. The house was a mess, and it was my fault. So essentially everything around me started to fall apart. I ended up hitting rock bottom that semester when I was waking up I guess it was the afternoon. I was waking up one afternoon, I think it was around 1 p.m. sometime. And I was coming in the stairs from my room, and here in the window, in the living room, I see a bunch of kids from the elementary school down the road coming home from lunch. And that was a pretty brutal realization, you know what I mean? Being an 18-year-old kid, seeing these little like 6-year-olds come home from school after, being somewhat productive that day for themselves, all while I can barely haul myself out of bed in time. In a lot of ways at that point, those kids were doing way better than I was, and they were youngsters, they were children. So that was a big turning point for me. From that point on, I decided to make a conscious effort to do better and get better. And so I started to do the things that I knew that I should have been doing. That being, cleaning up after myself, cleaning the dishes when I'm done with them, or making my bed, or taking a shower, cleaning myself. All of those things I'd let go of essentially at that point in my life. And honestly, at first, it wasn't like I wanted to do it, even remotely. It wasn't like I was happy to be making my bed every day. And it's this weird thing where you don't want to do the things that you should be doing, like the chores, like making your bed and like getting a shower, cleaning the dishes, stuff like that. Like, you don't want to be doing them. So you're kind of inclined to believe that, well, you don't want to do it, so you probably shouldn't, which is weird. But I actually found that the way to get through it for myself was to do the things that I know that I should have been doing, even though I didn't really want to be doing them. I actually started to feel useful at that point. I'd wake up, I'd make my bed, and even though I didn't want to be making my bed, I'd feel good about it afterwards. And because I felt good about doing that, that would make me want to do more things, such as cleaning the dishes, or showering, or cleaning the floors, or just anything at all. And eventually, as I started to do more and more things, more of these little things that I knew that I should have been doing in the first place, I eventually started to claw myself out of the hole that I was in, out of the hole that essentially I had dug for myself. And that's how making my bed every morning changed my life forever. To this day, I still try my best to stay on top of my chores and the things that I know I should be doing. And I encourage you guys to do the same thing, make your bed, clean the dishes, clean your floors, clean yourselves, do whatever, just do things, do the small things. And honestly, it helped me more than I can really describe with words. It helped me a lot. And I hope that you guys can take this and apply it to your own lives and hopefully dig yourselves out of the hole too. Anyways, folks, if you guys like this video, you'll probably enjoy this other video that I got put up on screen somewhere right about now. Also, consider subscribing because I'll be posting videos like this every Friday. My email is also in the description for those of you that want to send along your own experiences or stories, or even some suggestions that you guys might have for video ideas. My Instagram is also down there, so go give it a follow. I'll be posting sneak peeks every Thursday on upcoming videos. And yeah, I hope you guys can get something out of this, and until next time, take care.